Hi everybody, good evening. My name is Alan, and on behalf of the crew I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, every time we can see the opening on the monitor in the studio, and every time I watch it, you know, when that little boy's face comes on and Omishar, who did the opening video, starts singing about just really appreciating the joy of living. And I realize like how much we miss the joy of living, how much we miss the joy of loving. And it's just an extraordinary experience to know that that's available for us. And we just really, all of us, I know we want to take advantage of that joy of living and that joy of loving. And I think the time is now, the time is right for us all to come into that experience more, to come into the joy, to come into the love, to come into the experience of connectedness, of oneness, that is truly what we are. So I think this show again will provide us with an opportunity for that. And first I'd like to thank everybody. We've been getting over the last 2 or 3 weeks just enormous numbers of calls and letters and emails from all over the country, just encouraging us and wanting to know how to reach the guests and, you know, how we're doing the show, and if they could help, if people could help getting on Bridging Heaven and Earth in their area. And I can't tell you how much we all, the crew, myself, and everybody involved with Bridging Heaven and Earth really appreciates that and how much it inspires us. And another interesting thing happened which really blew my mind. This week we got a flyer for a media research bureau who's putting out a big publication, and they wanted to list Bridging Heaven and Earth in there. And one of the questions was, you know, how much is the potential audience for Bridging Heaven and Earth? So when I started thinking about it, that we're on, you know, the entire city of Philadelphia, the entire city of San Francisco, and Denver, and Sacramento, and Reno, and, you know, all over California, and all that. And then I went to this friend's house who had an almanac, and we went over the different cities and the populations in these cities, and it came out to over like 6 million people. And the thought that every week that Bridging Heaven and Earth has the potential with its guests and with it's just the love that I know everyone's trying to bring forth, and to be an inspiration, to live an inspiration, and to get that feedback from all over the country and all over the world. And again, I just really want to say on behalf of the crew how much we really appreciate that. So our guest tonight will again take us into that experience, again take us home into the experience of oneness. We have with us Jonathan Quintin, whose visionary art is so magnificent and specializes in sacred geometry, which is a field that most of us are not familiar with. But I think when Jonathan finishes, he's made some extraordinary videos tonight that we're going to see, and he will explain to you how he got involved in it and what it means to him, and how it can lead back to that love, to that sacredness, to that oneness. And we also have with us Christa Ray and Darren Songbird tonight, who are going to do musical backgrounds to Jonathan's videos. Christa is who's been on before, and we've gotten a lot of response from her. She sang to my soul, which she hasn't recovered from yet, but she's a harmonic singer and a vocal arts trainer, and she's a local Santa Barbara person, and we're just delighted to have her back. And then for the first time we have Darren with us, who's a musician and a flute maker who's also local in Santa Barbara. So I think tonight's show once again has the potential to really bring us all the people, all the 6 million people who are watching this show at this moment, that something is really happening, that something is really available for us, and now is the time for it. So please, as we normally do at this time, to set a tone for this show, join me in a short meditation. If you don't know a meditation technique, just close your eyes, follow your breath, just relax, and there's going to be information and energy and vibrations and tones and experience available tonight that could really lift us into more love and more connectedness. So please join me. Thank you very much. So we're going to start tonight's show with the first of Jonathan's videos, which he did Jonathan did it with Penny Slinger Hill of Goddess International Productions, and the sound, the toning, the music you're going to hear is from Christa and Darren. So whenever we're ready, take her away. Thank you. Hi. Well, thank you. Thank you, Christa. Thank you, Darren. So we're on the set with Jonathan. So for people who are unfamiliar, how would you describe sacred geometry in a simple way, and then we can make it more complex?
How I would describe it is basically it's looking towards the system of nature. It's the way that nature creates things. And it's all based on a few very simple, basic, fundamental principles that are most eloquently expressed through geometry, through geometric shape and geometric form. And that's what sacred geometry is. What you just saw was the hierarchical forms of sacred geometry.
The higher what?
Hierarchical. Higher, like a hierarchy. These are like
hierarchy.
yeah. And these are the building blocks of nature, basically. They have many remarkable qualities about them, and they've held the attention and passion of the human mind for thousands of years, like the ancient Egyptians and the Hindus and the Greeks and the Aztecs, and all of the advanced civilizations were very familiar with this field of geometry, sacred geometry, and these forms, these 5 forms.
So there's a root where there are 5 forms from which all else comes, in a way.
Basically, yes. These 5 forms are like 3-dimensional hieroglyphs that are describing universal dynamics, mathematical principles of physics and gravity and that. And in fact, everything in nature, every law we find in nature can be reduced to these 5 forms. I like how the ancient Hindus referred to them as the crystallization of the 4 forms of God. It's these forms that are like the transducers of chaos as it moves into cosmos. They're like the blueprint that the DNA takes the principles and individualizes them, using the same principles that go to make an elephant or a seashell or a sunflower. The same principles are used to make us. It's the DNA that makes these final little modifications and adjustments of these principles.
And how does knowing that help us to proceed?
Knowing, speaking for myself, it brings about a sense of well-being, and there's something very pure and clear and transcendental about connecting with this. It's a way of directly connecting with the intelligence behind creation, because it's an expression, it's a manifestation of this.
So it's almost like a meditation, a moving meditation, in a way, a conceptual meditation?
To me it is, and basically also it's a very good bridge of, we are lacking, I'm just going to take a little aside here, when we used to live in nature, we were constantly exposed to geometry, to sacred geometry, because every living form is sacred geometry. Every living form is an expression of these universal dynamics, you know, expressed in their own unique way, but very easily recognizable, these same principles. And we used to be constantly surrounded by this information, you know, as well as providing shelter and nourishment for us. Nature also contains information that, were we to, you know, live in accordance with, abide with this information, our lives would go along much more harmoniously with the symbiotic order of nature.
So by us understanding the nature of, like, the root, we more can live in harmony.
We can, because we're educating our mind to identify these universal principles and to live in compliance with them.
So if we don't live in compliance with them, it would be disharmonious to live
Dissonance.
in dissonance.
Yeah.
So give one example of how you could live in harmony, how it would manifest. You know, you get in a car, you know, you live your life. How
well,
would that?
It can be done on different levels, and the easiest way is to have sacred geometry in your life. It can be a pine cone or a sunflower or a seashell, or it can be a set of the platonic solids, and I want to, you know, describe some of their features to you during this evening.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a mandala, you know, whatever mandala appeals to you. It can be an ethnic mandala or a, shall we say, generic mandala, a sacred geometric mandala, a mathematical, scientific mandala, something that brings you peace and helps you center. Is a very valuable tool, and it's what has been used for thousands of years as a way, as a bridge of connecting with the higher realms, the realms of higher consciousness.
Okay, I think maybe we'll show the second video now, then we'll come back and talk some more.
Okay.
Again, the video is by Jonathan and Peggy Hill of Goddess International Productions.
Penny Hill.
Penny. What did I say?
Peggy.
I said Peggy the last time too? Is it?
No, the first time you said it right.
All right. Well, Penny Hill of Goddess International Productions, and the improvisational music will be with Christa and Darren. So whenever you guys are ready. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. So Jonathan's given birth while they were toning, so we have a new child with us here, and I guess Jonathan will explain what's happening here, but as you can see, it's extraordinarily beautiful.
This is one of the forms that was shown in that last segment, the central form. It's called the octatetrahexastellated dodecahedron.
Yeah, we've had a few of those before.
I'm sure, yes. By that Pythagoras fellow, I bet.
Right. It's one of our favorite guests, the idectahotahatartrija.
It's also known as Star Mother. And it's, in fact, it's like a replica of the universe in miniature, because it contains all of the mathematical principles found throughout nature. It's the 5 forms I was telling you about. They're all nested perfectly together into one of them here. And I want to run through them individually for you.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good.
And tell you...
start at the simple now.
Yeah, and...
You're dealing with me, so you got to start at the line.
I'll start with the most basic one, and it's this one here. It's made up of 4 triangular faces or facets, 4 equilateral triangles. And I just wanted to say why there are only 5 of these forms and not, any other number. It's because these are the only forms that can be produced through equal divisions or uniform divisions of the sphere. I want you to imagine like you had this sphere of soft butter, and you had a hot knife, an electronically heated hot knife with the ability to shave off segments of the sphere of butter with exact precision. And the least amount of cuts you could make with this knife would be 4. And this is the form that you would get. The next one would be 8 slices of the sphere in uniform, movements. And that would produce this form, which is generally known as the cube. Its geometric name is the hexahedron because there's 6 divisions of the sphere. And the next one is the octahedron. Octa, of course, having 8 divisions of the sphere. The next one is my favorite, I think. It's the dodecahedron, which means 12, or 2 plus 10, 12.
Now, why do you like it better than this one?
Well, I don't know.
This is going to be an interesting discussion here. No,
I like them both, and
I know you do.
this is the icosahedron.
You're like all your children. You
Exactly, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. This one is made of 20 equal divisions, and then after that you can't take any more equal divisions.
There'll
from
be
the
no
sphere.
more butter cutting after that.
No, it's all the
I'll have to
butter.
eat the rest. So, and from these 5 basic forms, all the other forms in the universe come from?
Yes, from combinations of these, divisions, modifications of these forms. After this come another set called the 13 Archimedean solids, which are semi-regular forms, and then after that, it's infinite.
So, when you start to make a video, or you start to put these patterns together, I mean, what is your intention?
Well,
Besides to have a good time.
How it started was I read about these, and I was so fascinated about reading about them, but it was only conceptual, and I really, really wanted to see them, so I just worked out a way to build them and play with them and color them and spin them.
So when you started, it was like you read about these things in books, and you read that they had a tremendous impact on the people who got to know them.
Yes, and as they were having on me as I got to learn about them.
And so when you were putting these videos together, what your intention is to bring that understanding and that awareness to a greater audience, in essence.
Absolutely. It will involve much more than just viewing, a video. It will be educating your mind about certain fundamental, universal principles. You'll be educating your mind about the dynamics of creation, and your subconscious will be absorbing all of this knowledge to be able to use it in as far as developing concepts of behavior, and you'll be able to integrate this information, into your whole lifestyle.
And so, if you could say, like, what have been like the 5 lessons or the 10 lessons that, if you had to say, were the most important lessons that, the practice of understanding sacred geometry, what would they be?
The first one, I think, would be just how profound it is. It's really quite remarkable and beautiful. I think that's one of the things that attracted me to it the most, was its beauty. Well, actually, it combines beauty with function. It's nature all over. Nature is a combination of beauty and function. And that's what sacred geometry is, but it's also capable of demonstrating and illustrating really profound mathematical facts, like the Islamic mosaics and some of the designs that you'll see later on in the video. It's a way of directly experiencing and appreciating the innate order that pervades the universe. It shows that there is order, that this can't happen by chance, that there is a guiding principle there somewhere, and sacred geometry is a way that we can have a very tangible experience of the essence of this.
So it's almost like a scientific explanation of God, in a sense.
Exactly, and that's what I like about it. I like that it's universal and that it transcends religion and dogma and doctrine, because it's based on pure mathematical principles that are irrefutable truths,
And not subject to any interpretation, in
Well,
essence.
many interpretations are placed upon them, but they're more than that. Those interpretations will probably, either disappear over time, or if they're true, then they'll stay.
Why don't you discuss what the third video is going to be that Darren and Christa are going to tone to?
This is going to be about the Sri Yantra, the 2- and 3-dimensional Sri Yantra. And this is an ancient yantra. Yantra means image, sacred image. Yantra is sacred image, mantra is sacred sound. Yantras are the images of these sacred sounds. And this one is called the Sri Yantra. It's over 12,000 years old, much more than that. But it's made up of all of these triangles, actually 9 primary triangles, 9 big triangles, which interlace perfectly to make 43 smaller triangles, the only set of triangles in the universe, in the known universe, that are capable of doing this. All other isosceles triangles, as these are, wouldn't fit, they'd overlap and they'd make a mess. And so there's something really beautiful and intricate and profound about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I took these triangles, these 2-dimensional triangles, I used their same proportions, and I volumized the triangles into pyramids. So the 9 interlacing triangles are transformed into
Spin
9
that, baby.
interlocking pyramids. And I will spin it because that's one of the delightful things about it. When it spins, I'll spin it faster than this. When it spins fast, then these pyramids actually transform into cones.
Wow. So the video is more of a representation of that.
Of this, yes.
Of this.
And also I wanted to point out, 3-dimensionally you can see it from above and below. And from above and below, you see that it's actually a 6-pointed star. Just a series of triangles making 6 points.
Wow.
So this next segment, I wanted to say, just before we go on to it, that the Sri Yantra is the image of the Om mantra. Om is the primordial sound of creation. The Sri Yantra is the primordial image of the mathematical process of creation.
Seen this one? Okay. All right. I guess whenever we're ready, Christa and Darren are going to make music behind it, and the video is by Penny Hill of Goddess International, and Jonathan has done the video with her. So whenever we're ready. Oh, thank you. That was beautiful. So when you go to make the videos, what are you trying to conceptualize? I mean, are all those videos going to be one video at some point? Is that your intention?
Yes, all of those clips are just segments of a video that Penny Slinger Hills and I are
Peggy.
in the
No, I'm
Penny.
kidding. Sorry, Peggy. It's only kidding.
And we're both combining, you know, our abilities and talents and skills to produce this educational as well as entertaining as well as artistically poetic dance video called Dance of the Cosmos, where we're using the forms and the geometries of sacred geometry in ways of ambience, you know, of interplay between the goddess dancers. And actually, do you know one of the things I like best about this video? There's about 15 lady dancers at one part or another, and only one male person in the entire video.
You?
That's me.
Now that's a fine habit. A family show like ours has to hear this kind of... No, I know
So that's one of the fringe benefits of being a resident artist and the production of
the
this.
Goddess International.
Yeah.
Is that why you picked that company? That's the
Well,
question.
I didn't pick it. We
It
kind
picked you?
of, well, the universe brought us together, and it's brought about all of this wonderful, these wonderful images that we're able to create together and put in a format that can be appreciated and experienced on all different levels of understanding. Everyone, no matter what their level of understanding, will get something from it, but some more than others, because there's a lot of information encoded, you know, in all of these geometries. They're like seeds of information, and are disseminated into our consciousness just from looking at it.
So what your feeling is that watching the videos, which we have, you know, Darren and Christa behind it, but your intention is to put music, whether theirs or others, behind it, that with those images and with whatever sounds you're having, whatever audio you're having behind it, that will create a trigger in a human being to like open the heart, to connect them to the root, to connect them to...
Absolutely, yes, and the connection comes through a process called sympathetic resonance, which you have in music, you know, two tuning forks tuned to the same frequency, like middle C, is it 256 cycles per second, something like that. You strike one and the other one starts resonating because it's tuned to that same frequency. And it's not contingent on volume, but rather frequency, because you can have an entire auditorium with 1,000 tuning forks tuned to C, and you only have to strike one and all the others will start vibrating in resonance, in harmony to that. Something similar to that happens when we look and we engage and we interact with sacred geometry, is that we are being reminded of this geometry of which, you know, we are...
Of the perfection.
Yeah, and that we are being attuned to the perfection. The perfection within us is being heightened, is being like refined.
The flame is being like propelled, or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I often talk about it, and that's not necessarily on the show, but I talk about it, you know, with the people involved in the show, is that, you know, they say, what's the show about? And all I say is that, you know, it's not the rhetoric, or it's not each particular person's or guest thing. It's just sending out that vibration of love. You know, sending out, and then it just propels itself and changes the whole universe just by being out there.
Well, you know, if we feel better about ourselves and we're more in balance and at peace and in harmony with nature, we're going to feel better about ourselves, and we're going to act differently to people than we would if we're not feeling good about ourselves.
And differently to the oceans, and differently to the animals and the trees. We're going to feel more a part of everything.
Well, that's another really priceless value of what you learn from sacred geometry, is the interconnectivity of everything. Whether, you know, it's sea protozoals, or dinosaurs, or spiral galaxies, or seashells, or
trees,
or
the
trees,
ocean.
or anything.
Yeah, right.
You know,
The
we're
sand
all
at the beach,
related.
right. And all of us who look different, who are taller and shorter and different colors and different religions, that there's only one thing behind it.
Exactly, yeah.
So it more or less gives you an experience of what we talk about as like the oneness.
Oh yes, yes. Well, sacred geometry is expressions and various manifestations that arise from a oneness.
Why don't you describe the fourth video that you and Penny put together, and then
Okay,
Christa
this one we get into what is called the anthropocosmic human being, and in this case the goddess, the dancing goddess. And it shows that anthropocosmic, I should explain, means
I think
that,
everybody in our audience is very familiar with that.
Okay.
No.
Well, it means that human consciousness is structured the same as universal mind. The same principles that drive the universe are the same principles within us, driving us. And so,
Can it be otherwise?
well,
Some people
some people would want you to believe so.
Right.
But assuming, for the moment anyway, the position that we are anthropocosmic human beings, this next segment takes that and really shows it in a very impactful and dynamic way, that the geometry within us and how we are a part of it, and it is a part of us, and we're all interrelated.
Yeah. Okay, so whenever we're ready, another video, and we have Christa and Darren doing their improvisational toning and musical work behind it. So it's by Jonathan and Penny Hill of Goddess International. 12 women and Jonathan here. Now we found out the truth
That's
of
just
it.
rough figures.
All right, let's go. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. So before I forget, I'd like to say that if anyone's interested in Jonathan's work or Christa or Darren and want any information about when they're teaching, when they're making flutes, when their workshops are, when the video will be ready, please give me a call at 805-687-2053. So any information about anybody you've seen on the show, please call me at 805-687-2053. So, Jonathan, when you want to finalize this video, I mean, the intention is to send out like a vibration.
Yes.
And
A vibration that is in harmony with the source. Because I love the title of your show, Bridging Heaven and Earth, because that's exactly what sacred geometry does, is it unites heaven and earth. It's an interface between the transcendental ethereal plane and the crystallized physical plane.
almost like a transformer or some kind of electrical device that takes the energy and makes
Exactly, yeah. And it's a gateway for us to interact and to become attuned and in balance with the source. And it doesn't, you don't have to follow any doctrine or dogma or religion. In fact, you don't even have to leave your current religion or current beliefs, because it's based on mathematics, mathematical principles that, no matter what you say, they still add up to the same thing.
So when you started getting into this, were you like seeking out the transcendental path, the spiritual path, higher consciousness
definitely
when you
so.
came to this?
Yes. Prior to this, I had spent many years traveling all around the world to dozens of different countries, observing and experiencing the different cultures and doctrines and the different teachings and
Yours
religions.
is a New Zealand accent, not a Brooklyn accent, right?
It's not a Brooklyn accent.
Okay, I just got a little confused for a minute.
Yeah, I should have mentioned earlier.
Oh, it's okay. Just
At
being
least you didn't
silly
say
for
Australian.
Right. No, I wouldn't want to offend you.
Well, if that's your one safe and great.
Right. No.
So, I was starting to see how it found me rather than me found it. But I was searching for ways to elevate my consciousness and to develop and refine my spiritual understanding and awareness. And my experience of all of the observations, all of the different places I went to, dozens and dozens of countries and different systems, they all had this common denominator, this golden thread that linked them all together, and that was sacred geometry. Most of them don't call it by that name, but they integrate the principles of sacred geometry in their architecture, their art symbology, their religion, their philosophy. And basically, it found me. It got to a point where I decided that it was much more important than anything else I could be doing, and much more interesting and exciting to me than anything else I could be doing. And I had my whole life set out. It all planned out at that time. I wanted to get into film school and produce videos on nature, that kind of stuff. But this just overtook everything that I was doing.
The best laid plans, huh?
Really, yeah.
So, and once you came upon this, it was like right for you from the very almost the first minute.
Oh yes, it was like coming home. And actually there was one form that did it more than anything else, and it was my very first experience.
The one you loved the best.
Of this form, the dodecahedron. And when I saw that, I just thought, yes, this is definitely what I want
My
to spend
soulmate.
the rest of my life with.
my
It was like
twin
finding a
flame.
soulmate. It really was, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
great.
and while I've got this in my hand, I wanted to use another example of sacred geometry to demonstrate the interconnectivity and the beauty and the balance. Traditionally, the dodecahedron, that's this one here, is associated with the yin principle, the feminine principle, and the icosahedron is associated with the yang principle, yin and yang. And so these
And why
two,
did it get associated with that?
oh, just through the way that they work their way. One is projective, one is receptive, that kind
I
of
see.
stuff. These two forms here, this one first, is a combination of the two. It's the icosahedron on the outside, and then the dodecahedron is on the inside, and this is the exact opposite. Here we have the dodecahedron containing the icosahedron. Each one is a reflection of the other.
Wow.
Each one, by reflecting inwardly upon itself, creates the other.
Wow.
And so these are the two modalities of the yin and yang, and their internal
And how
external modalities.
They're like one. There's like a harmony
They're like
between
one.
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so let's see the last video, and I'm going to try to get the name right once, because every time we come back, Jonathan says, no, you got the first name wrong. No, you got the last name wrong. No, it's not. Okay, it's Penny Slinger Hills.
You got it.
Of Goddess International Productions, and Jonathan did the video, and the improvisational music will be with Christa Ray and Darren Songbird. So this is the last video, and it's very beautiful, so watch it. Thank you. So that was fantastic. So when you did that one, what was your intent with that one particular piece as opposed to the others? What was your idea behind that one?
Well, Penny had a lot of involvement in this part too, and it was like, in the beginning, it was the goddess with the pendulum, and the goddess was playing with the elements and bringing creation together. And then we wanted to get a whole lot of visuals, really dynamic, like a lot of punch behind it, so that, you know, if you're ready for it, then there's a lot of information in there that can be of benefit to you.
And if somebody asks you what information would there be, what information would you get out of it, say? You who are familiar with it.
Well, I see it as, I see the forms and the shapes as cosmic vitamins. It feeds us, it's nourishment for us, it brings us back to the source, it connects us with the source, it helps, it connects us with our own perfection, and it taps us into our source of potential, and it teaches us about the interconnectivity of all things and the delicate symbiotic balance of all levels of creation.
And the way you were describing it, when a human being has that experience, would you say it feels like love?
It feels like unconditional,
love.
Universal love, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in essence, this is another experience, another path, and another way to get to the truth, to get to the experience of what really exists, which is unconditional love.
I think so. And another premise of sacred geometry is that God is the master geometer, because everything in geometry, everything in nature, I mean, is geometry or geometrized.
Well, it seems like that's a good way to end, that it brings us all to love and all to connectedness. So I don't know what your experience was tonight, but it's just really it just feels really wonderful here in the studio. And you know, we're just honored again, you know, Bridging Heaven and Earth, to have Jonathan. I mean, he came all the way in from San Francisco, and Christa and Darren are local here. But you know, we just worked for the last couple of weeks on really getting this right, actually months, to just really bring that experience of love, of connectedness to each of us here, each of the studio audience, to the crew, and hopefully to the 6 million people out there. So again, all your inspiration, all your calls, all your emails are really important to us. They really inspire us. So please continue them. We love you. Thank you. Good night. God bless you. Watch next week. Good night.